Amazing Waitress reveals hidden truth in Arabic saves Billionaire Sheikh from $200 million scam. Maria felt the familiar weight of exhaustion settle over her as she wiped down the counter, the diner's fluorescent lights reflecting off her tired eyes. Each clatter of dishes and cheerful banter among locals blended into a symphony that both soothed and strained her. Serving coffee and comfort food to the inhabitants of Cedarville was a ritual she cherished but today held a different kind of intensity. The group of impeccably dressed businessmen sitting by the window caught her attention as they leaned in, their voices swelling like storm clouds. And then she heard whispers of a $200 million investment scheme aimed at Sheikh Ahmed, a billionaire she'd only read about, known more for his charitable heart than for his wealth. Her heart raced not from the conversation itself, often relegated to the realm of the rich, but from the knowledge that this was not just any scam. It was insidious, weaving itself through the fabric of greed and deception, and somehow, she could understand every word spoken in their sharp Arabic tones. Maria's mind whirled with the gravity of the situations unfolding before her. She was an underpaid waitress, balancing the weight of overdue bills and looming dreams of college. Did she dare step into a world where she felt so blatantly out of place? As she poured another cup of coffee, the steam fogged the lens of her confidence. She wrestled with her instincts, knowing she should act but fearing what it might cost her. Her parents instilled in her a sense of duty and honor, they worked themselves to the bone for a semblance of a better life. Did she betray their sacrifices to protect someone she didn't know, risking her own family's stability and what little she had left? Every second felt crucial, the ticking of the clock reminding her that indecision could have dire consequences. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The pressure surged within her like a rubber band stretched too tight. As their conversations faded into the background noise of the diner, she felt isolated. The patrons, cheerful and engrossed in their routines, viewed her as less than competent. It wasn't just the men in suits dismissing her, but even her colleagues who couldn't see past her apron-clad exterior. She hesitated, the doubts flooding in what if they were right. What if she was naively overestimating her ability to make a difference? Yet, the thought of Sheikh Ahmed's name suffocated her. She could still hear the reverberations of the schemers' laughter, the way they mocked the very notion of integrity. Her resolve began to sharpen, she had hidden strength forged by her parents' sacrifices. A grip tightened around her heart, squeezing out self-doubt, replacing it with something more potent: determination. Maria was now standing on a precipice, teetering between the familiarity of her life and the uncertain shadows of a world that shrouded itself in hideous deceit. She could feel the stakes rising, her pulse quickening with the urgency to act. She had to reach out to Sheikh Ahmed. But even as that thought solidified, an icy tremor spread through her, the fear of being dismissed, belittled. In that moment, the walls of the diner seemed to close in as she gathered her breath, the shadows stretching longer across the floor. The urgency crystallized into an electric anticipation, her heart thundering as deep-seated fears danced at the edges of her mind, all while she prepared to defy the very biases that bound her. Would she ever step into her hidden strength? Would her courage to protect someone she admired grant her the validation she desperately sought, or would she remain forever shackled by doubt? The future loomed, palpable and uncertain, as the weight of her choice bore down on her, and she questioned, was she truly ready to confront the demon lurking beneath the surface? The air in the diner felt heavier now as Maria wrestled with her thoughts. A flicker of courage ignited within her, but it danced perilously close to self-doubt like a candle flickering in a gust. She pushed the last of her apprehensions aside, this could not wait. She knew she had to make a move, but how to approach a billionaire with nothing but an apron and a bunch of half-finished dreams? Casting a glance at the suit-clad schemers once more, Maria let the determination swell. They were unabashedly arrogant, their confidence rooted in wealth and manipulation. Yet here she was, armed with the knowledge to shatter their deceit. She had more power than she realized, her language skills, her intuition, her very identity as someone who watched life unfold from the fringes of their world. It was time to leverage that. Before she could lose the resolve, Maria brushed off her hands and picked up her phone. She hesitated only a moment, her fingers poised above the screen. What would she even say? Should she send a daring message to Sheikh Ahmed, or would that push her further into the abyss of uncertainty? Thoughts swirled chaotically. What if she got it wrong? What if she landed herself in trouble? Taking a deep breath, she opened her notes app, creating a draft immediately. Dear Sheikh Ahmed, I overheard something concerning, she typed, pausing to think of how to phrase the urgency that accompanied her words. Words swirled in her mind, intertwining with her fears, motivations, and stubborn determination. After several edits, she wrote, I believe you may be a target of a deceptive investment scheme. Please let me know if you'd like to discuss. With her heart pounding in her chest, Maria hovered over the send button, eyes darting between the businessmen and the bustling diner patrons, desperately seeking a signal of assurance. But all she found was silence, layered with heavy skepticism. Maybe she would be branding herself a fool, but she was desperate enough to take that risk. Without a second thought, she hit send and watched as the screen flashed to confirm the message's delivery. Time seemed to freeze. The din around her dimmed into muffled sounds, and for a fleeting moment, the world revolved around her alone. The anticipation settled so deep in her stomach that she fought the urge to vomit. She paced back and forth behind the counter, battling between hope and fear. Each ring of the phone from her fellow workers felt like a mockery of her decision. Just then, her phone buzzed, jolting her back to reality. It was a response. Goosebumps rippled across her arms as she opened the message. It read, I'm intrigued. Can we meet? The words pulsed with possibility, each syllable electrifying her resolve. It wasn't just a response, it was an invitation, a chance to step out of the shadows and into her own light while confronting the lurking doubts of her worth. She was embarking on a path with no clear route, and with it came an exhilaration she had never dared to embrace. As she scribbled down a time and place, her heart surged with new purpose. This was not merely an opportunity, it was a leap toward her ambitions and ideals. Could she become a catalyst for change, even as she battled the shackles of her own insecurities? In that moment, Maria recognized this venture was more than about saving a billionaire, it was about saving herself. The thought cascaded through her, reaffirming the authenticity of her journey. The power of her voice, once stifled by circumstance, began to resonate with independence. Her head tilted slightly, a sense of newfound confidence emanating from the depths of her being. She was ready, and this was just the beginning. But as Maria set a meeting with Sheikh Ahmed, lingering questions remained. Could she truly navigate this high-stakes game without losing herself in the process? As her phone buzzed again, she glanced down, a subtle reminder of the world's unpredictability pinging through the screen. What awaited her at this meeting with the man who embodied the life she yearned for but had never dared to reach? Would this be the moment she embraced her destiny or the reset of her greatest fears? Only time would tell. The day of the meeting dawned, and an unfamiliar sense of gravity weighed down Maria's shoulders. The diner, once a comforting cocoon, felt constricting now. With each coffee order, she felt the clock ticking away the minutes until her appointment. The apron wrapped around her waist felt more like a shackle than a badge of honor. She was a waitress, but today, she was on the verge of becoming something different, a player in the game of high stakes. As the lunch rush eased and the chatter filtered down, Maria glanced at the clock. A knot tightened in her stomach. She was minutes away from stepping into a world that thrived on power, wealth, and deception. Instinctively, she reached for her phone, her mind racing through potential scenarios, rehearsing the words that had been crafted so meticulously the night before. Each imagined conversation laid bare her insecurities. What if Sheikh Ahmed dismissed her as just another voice trying to climb the social ladder? What if her instincts failed her? Determined to maintain control, Maria entered the restroom, taking a moment to steady her breath while staring at her reflection. The woman looking back held the weight of two identities, the waitress who served pancakes and the woman claiming the right to speak truth against the deceitful. Instead of retreating, she took a deep breath, letting it fill her lungs until the air felt electric. "Stand tall," she whispered to herself, embedding that mantra in her thoughts. As she emerged from the restroom, the faint reverberation of her heartbeat echoed against her ribcage. She was resolved to break free from the narrative dictated by her circumstances. Today, she would transform her audacity into empowerment. Arriving at the posh cafe where she was to meet Sheikh Ahmed, the contrast was jarring. The polished marble floor gleamed beneath her scuffed shoes, and she felt acutely aware of the rich fabric of the suits surrounding her. Yet, beneath the anxiety bubbling within, another emotion lurked: anticipation. She wasn't here to bask in their world, she was ready to negotiate her presence within it. As she scanned the room, her gaze fell upon Sheikh Ahmed, deep in conversation with a pair of suits. His intensity was palpable even from a distance, and she felt an urge to shrink back, swallowed up by doubt. But then she remembered her purpose. She took a steadying breath and approached, forcing herself to move past the hesitations swirling within. Just as he turned, leaving behind animated discussions with his associates, he caught her eye and smiled, his expression shifting from surprise to curiosity. "Maria, yes," he said, extending a warm hand. "Thank you for meeting me," she replied, firm in her tone. They moved to a quieter corner, away from the din of whispers and coffee grinders. As they sat, Maria felt her body tense, resisting the urge to fidget. She had played this part in her mind a million times, but now that the moment had arrived, her confidence wavered. Could she hold on to her authenticity amidst the polished exchanges of this world? "Your text intrigued me," Sheikh Ahmed said casually, his tone embodying both warmth and authority. Maria took a breath, feeling the tension in the fabric of their encounter. "I believe there is a plot against you, a deceptive scheme brewing. I overheard some conversations." Each word surged with urgency, yet every syllable laid bare her vulnerability. As she revealed the details of her overheard conversations and the names involved, she saw Sheikh Ahmed's expression shift from curiosity to focused determination. This was a man used to calculating risks, but here he was, caught by surprise. "Why should I trust you?" he challenged gently, his eyes piercing yet assessing. The question hung in the air, and Maria realized this was her moment not merely to provide a warning but to assert her place in the narrative. "Because I've spent my life observing these people from the sidelines. I have something they don't: perspective." As she spoke, something fundamental within her broke free. She was not just a waitress, she was an individual capable of great insight and influence. The acknowledgement rippled through her, filling her with a strength she thought was only latent. Sheikh Ahmed leaned back, mulling over her words. "Interesting," he said, a hint of respect coloring his tone. "Perhaps we can work together." Her heart raced, the adrenaline flooding her veins with new courage. This was no longer just a meeting, it was a partnership that could alter the course of her life. But as intrigue shimmered in Sheikh Ahmed's eyes, uncertainty loomed over her. Would her newfound empowerment endure against the machinations of the powerful? Maria's resolve solidified, but a deeper question emerged from the shadows of her mind: could she truly navigate this legacy-laden world of deception while maintaining her authenticity, or was the allure of success a seductive trap waiting to ensnare her? The stakes were higher than she imagined, and as Sheikh Ahmed leaned forward to outline their next steps, Maria braced herself. She was stepping into a storm, and the real battle was only just beginning. Maria listened intently as Sheikh Ahmed articulated his vision for their partnership. Each sentence he spoke was imbued with authority and ambition, painting a picture of possibilities that seemed almost magnetic. Yet, the enchantment of his words only deepened the tempest within her. Was she ready to embrace a future steeped in power plays and hidden agendas? "There are risks involved, of course," he cautioned, his brows furrowing slightly. "This isn't just business, it's a web of intrigue. Can you handle this? His gaze held hers firmly, as though piercing through the layers of uncertainty she wore like armor. She nodded, but in her mind, she questioned whether she could truly fortify herself against the tides of deception and manipulation that floated around them like dust motes. There was no way back to the safety of the diner now. To mask her inner doubt, she steeled her posture, grounding herself in the resolve that had begun to emerge earlier. I wouldn't have come if I didn't believe I could help. The confident words felt awkward on her tongue, but she recognized their potency. This was about proving herself not just to him, but to herself. Let us start by identifying those behind the threat, Sheikh Ahmed suggested, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. What did you overhear exactly? Maria took a steady breath, collecting her thoughts. There were discussions among some wealthy investors, she began, her voice gaining steadiness as she replayed the snippets she had caught. They mentioned your business expansion plans to undermine your authority and push you out of the market. It was clear they intend to benefit at your expense. Sheikh Ahmed leaned back, folding his arms thoughtfully. The weight of her words settled between them, crackling with the electricity of impending action. Interesting. You might be more valuable than I initially estimated. For the first time, Maria felt a flicker of pride pushing through the uncertainty. She was not merely a waitress, she had delivered vital intelligence. This moment it was a turning point. But was it merely a flicker? The thought collided with an unsettling realization: what if she became consumed by this world? That's the high-stakes game, she reminded herself, straddling the line between excitement and trepidation. Sheikh Ahmed then detailed their strategy, leveraging her connection within the community to gather intel while he tightened the grip around his opposition. He presented a methodical plan, explaining how to utilize market dynamics to their advantage. The more he spoke, the more she understood how multifaceted the game truly was, and with every new piece of information, her pulse quickened. Yet with every pulse, another thought loomed: her emotional ties to her previous life were fraying. The diner, her sanctuary of simple joys, began to feel miles away. Was this life a whirlwind of luxury and power worth the sacrifice of everything she had known? Are you in? Sheikh Ahmed's voice cut through her reverie, and she met his gaze with renewed clarity. Yes, she replied, feeling a warmth stir within her. The decision had become clear. She would not only navigate this world, she would learn to master it. But as the adrenaline surged, another flicker of fear battled for space, a fear of becoming the very thing she stood against. Was she truly capable of maintaining her integrity amid the ruthless machinations of such wealth? Every choice would build her, but at what cost? As the conversation shifted to strategies, Maria felt an eerie suspense envelop her. There was a thrill in the risk, but lurking in the seams of their partnership was an inevitable truth: success would sweep her away, and she may lose herself in the process. Later, as the cafe hummed around them, Maria stole a glance out the window, where the horizon blinked against the stark outline of skyscrapers. What awaited her in the heart of such ambition and greed? Burgeoning opportunity lay ahead, but beneath it all was the incessant pull of her simple origins. As they concluded their plans, the uncertainty gnawed at her. Moving forward was crucial, yet she couldn't shake the foreboding sense that this was just the beginning of a descent into a deeply entangled conflict. Would she emerge unscathed, or would she find herself ensnared in the very web she sought to dismantle? As she and Sheikh Ahmed crafted their first public facade, a joint venture designed to throw off their adversaries, Maria felt the stakes rise even higher. Beyond the facade, a darker game awaited, one that could unravel everything she had fought to build. The clock was ticking, and time offered no reprieve. The promise of power was old and intoxicating, but it carried a price. As she turned back to Sheikh Ahmed, the weight of what lay ahead settled over her like a fog. But one question circled relentlessly in her mind: how far was she willing to go to retain her authenticity in a world of illusions? With that thought anchoring her, Maria braced for the realities to come. The real challenges were not just outside, they resided within, structuring her evolving identity in this treacherous game. And just as profound questions loomed in the shadows, another negotiation approached, one that would pit her ambition against her emerging intuition. What secrets would remain hidden, and what truths would she unveil? The following days whirled past Maria like leaves caught in a gust of wind. Each encounter with Sheikh Ahmed revealed more layers of the world. She had stepped into a world that felt both alluring and perilous. The thrill was intoxicating, yet her heart raced at the thought of the perilous game she had entered. As they delved deeper into their strategies, Maria sketched a path of insights on paper, each marking a growth in her understanding of their adversaries and the market. Today, they were to meet potential allies, contacts within the industry who could pivot the balance of power in their favor. Sheikh Ahmed instructed her to treat the gathering as more than just a meeting. It was a chance to showcase their newfound partnership and to solidify Maria's position as a key player. The pressure mounted, and Maria felt the weight of expectation draping over her shoulders like an exquisitely tailored coat. While preparing for the encounter, she studied herself in the mirror, scrutinizing the reflection that stared back with assertiveness in her posture but hesitance in her eyes. This was her opportunity to blur the lines of her past and step firmly into a role defined by assertiveness and shrewdness. But lingering within was a gnawing fear, a warning that cautioned about losing the core of who she was. "Remember, Maria," Sheikh Ahmed had said during their strategizing, "confidence breeds respect, and respect is currency in this world." She repeated his words quietly as she adjusted her cuffs, mentally preparing herself to meld ambition with authenticity. The venue was held in one of the city's most opulent towers, the kind that reflected wealth so gleamingly that its brilliance could obscure judgment. Each person they met was sharper than the last, equipped with financial muscle and political acumen, sharks in a water where she was learning to swim. The conversations danced like ribbons, each exchange layered with nuances that Maria struggled to unravel, yet she noticed the spark in Sheikh Ahmed's eyes as he navigated them with grace. With surprising ease, Maria found herself drawn into dialogues about market trends and tactics. Each question she answered seemed to unlock new levels of respect among the elite in the room. She challenged their assertions, her mind racing with the knowledge she had accumulated over these brief yet intense days. The thrill of engagement blended seamlessly with the dread that maybe she was stepping further into a maze where every step could lead to a fall. As the evening progressed, Maria caught sight of a familiar face, Victor, one of the investors she recognized from the cafe, a key figure in the discussions she had overheard. He offered a cordial nod, but unmistakably, there was a hint of menace lingering in his gaze. Instinctively, she straightened her shoulders, showcasing her demeanor as a dividends-motivated entrepreneur instead of a mere waitress. "Careful, this guy smells opportunity," Sheikh Ahmed whispered, noting her glance. That caution sparked a revelation. She was more than just an observer, she was a player in this intricate chess game. Her instincts rang true, but so did the warning against complacency. Adjustments to her strategy were necessary, dictated by this newfound awareness. The threads of commitment were weaving tighter around her, threatening to entangle her instincts with greed, which beckoned from every corner. The evening culminated in a toast. Surrounded by glittering glasses, Maria raised her own, feeling empowered as she voiced her ambition. "To new beginnings and possibilities," she proclaimed, her voice steady and clear. It felt liberating yet frightening. She was celebrating not just a partnership, but a transformation. Yet in her mind lingered a whisper, questioning whether her ambitions aligned with her integrity. With each subsequent toast, Maria felt the curious thrill of duality tugging at her, a desire to seize the moment while grappling with an old nemesis, the fear of morphed identity. Who was she becoming amidst this gilded facade? As they departed, a chill surged through her, entangled with a determination to uncover the authentic Maria amid the arrangements of deception and power-mongering. And as she stared back at the tower, the heartbeat of the city throbbing beneath her, she realized that navigating this landscape would require not just intelligence, but a recalibration of her own moral compass. The path forward loomed heavy with complexity, entwined with darker prospects. With secrets poised to unravel and choices barely made, Maria realized one truth: there was no retreat into the diner's familiarity. She had crossed the threshold into an arena that demanded not only brilliance but integrity. As they reached the car, her phone buzzed with a message from Victor, cryptic yet suggestive, "We should talk, Maria. You might want to consider your new alliances more carefully." The clarity she had felt earlier dimmed, replaced by an anxious frisson. Could she afford to trust someone who knew her past? How fragile was her newfound position? The sheer weight of her decisions pulsed within her, and a chilling realization settled: the stakes were only just beginning to reveal themselves. Would she forge ahead and confront this new challenge, or would this alliance begin to unravel everything she hoped to build? In the days that followed the gathering, Maria felt as if she were navigating a labyrinth. The echoes of Victor's message rattled through her mind, gnawing at her resolve while simultaneously inflating her ambition. She had a delicate balance to maintain, playing the role of an ambitious entrepreneur while grappling with the shadows of her past. Every conversation reflected a facet of her evolving self, but this was a reflection dangerously close to distortion. "Align your ambitions with an unwavering purpose," Sheikh Ahmed advised during one of their preparatory meetings. Although his words resonated, they left her pondering how purpose could remain steadfast in an environment rife with deception. Each day, the stakes of her choices felt elevated. She wasn't just involved in a partnership anymore but had become an essential element in a high-stakes game where loyalty was fluid. Maria immersed herself in research, not just about the market but also about the players who permeated it. They weren't merely competitors, they were puzzles she felt compelled to solve. She began cataloging insights and discerning patterns among the serious faces that flitted through her mind. The anticipation of Victor's next move loomed larger with each passing hour, and she felt a compulsion to prepare an anticipation for confrontation colored by a hint of dread. It was late afternoon when a message from Sheikh Ahmed arrived, sparking a mix of eagerness and apprehension within her. "We have a potential meeting arranged with an investor. They're looking for a fresh perspective." The timing felt perilous, the air crackled with the second-hand electricity of opportunity. Did this mean she had to face Victor sooner than expected? As they walked into the upscale hotel lobby where the meeting was set to take place, Maria readied herself mentally. This was more than just a meeting, it was an audition of sorts, the stakes woven tightly into her very identity. The lavish surroundings felt foreign, yet familiar enough that she found courage in her discomfort. She was no longer the waitress hoping for a break, she was Maria, the strategist with a pulse on market shifts. The investor, a woman with sharp eyes and a swift presence, was seated at a glossy table adorned with proposals. The introductions were quick, and as Maria began presenting their ideas, she felt the crispness of clarity seeping in, the fear palpably fading into determination. With every point she made, she observed the investor's eyebrows raise, inkling at a budding respect. Each nod was a minor victory. Yet, as the meeting progressed, her awareness sharpened onto Victor's shadow lurking in the back of her consciousness. What if he disrupted this moment? The internal turmoil was an instrument she learned to master. Instead of letting anxiety steal her focus, she pivoted the energy into her delivery, passionately articulating potential gains and innovative strategies. "Do you really think you can deliver on these promises?" The investor probed, skepticism painting her tone. "Absolutely," Maria replied, her voice laced with conviction. "We have the insight necessary to bend the tide of this market." A silence fell before the investor smiled, the kind of smile that hinted she was considering the stakes. Maria's heartbeat surged, an affirmation not that her ambitions were valid, but that she had become worthy of this space. After the meeting, Sheikh Ahmed regarded her with a glint of pride. "You held your own today. You didn't blink in front of the challenges," he said, and for a fleeting moment, Maria felt like she belonged not just to this game, but as its rightful player. Yet Victor's looming presence still echoed in her mind, doubts swirling again. What did he want from her? Was he merely anointed by fortune, or did he wield a power capable of dismantling everything she had begun to forge? As the night deepened, Maria realized she couldn't merely be reactive to outside players, she had to get ahead of them if she were to thrive. Her pathway had to be planned and her alliances strategically chosen. Even if it challenged her core beliefs. With this revelation burning bright, she glanced at her phone, Victor's name illuminating her screen once more. Torn between dread and determination, she pressed the button to respond, knowing that the next message could either forge new pathways or threaten to uproot everything she had begun building. The stakes were rising, and she could no longer afford to tread lightly. What truths lay hidden beneath Victor's proposal? Was it a threat or a lifeline? The moment of reckoning was fast approaching. She would either seize her destiny or be pushed off course. Would she confront Victor and unearth the truth lurking in his enigmatic offer? Maria's fingers hovered over her phone, heart racing as she considered how best to frame her response to Victor. The weight of that decision loomed larger than she anticipated. Each word held potential, not only for her future but for how she might define the very essence of her ambition. She took a breath, steadied herself, and began typing. Victor, I'm intrigued by your proposal and would like to discuss it further. Can we meet? After hitting send, she leaned back, wrestling with the irony of her own eagerness. Was she inviting a chance to unravel Victor's intentions or walking directly into a trap? The anticipation inside her was electric, a blend of fear and excitement pulsating in her veins. This was no longer a simple inquiry, it was a deliberate step into an arena where she had much to prove. Days passed in a blur. Work consumed her, punctuated by fleeting moments of that initial spark of pride from the investor meeting. Clients responded positively, their enthusiasm reinforcing her growing confidence. Yet, no matter how successful her projects became, each triumph felt intertwined with the impending confrontation with Victor. Then, one evening her phone buzzed. Victor had replied, asking her to meet at a nearby cafe. The location was innocuous, yet Maria sensed the undercurrents of deceit brewing in the air as she arrived. She spotted Victor seated at a corner table, his demeanor exuding an ease that felt deeply unsettling. His polished image contrasted sharply with her energy. She felt battle-ready, while he seemed to have already tilted the odds in his favor. Maria, he greeted with a disarming smile. I'm glad you could make it. Of course, she managed, trying to mask the tempest swirling within. They exchanged pleasantries, but Maria's mind raced ahead. What exactly was the nature of his proposal? Did he merely seek a partner, or was he hoping to leverage her newfound success against her? She needed clarity, but Victor wielded charm like a weapon. I wanted to talk about your recent ideas, he said, leaning in slightly, inviting her into a web of flattering compliments and speculation. I see the potential for growth. We could work wonders, you and I. His words were sweet, but Maria felt an undertow, an implicit challenge cloaked within his praise. What do you mean by we? She countered, the word escaping her lips without forethought. Victor chuckled softly, clearly amused. Come now, I'm asking you to consider an alliance. You've got vision, but the market is treacherous. You could use someone with deeper connections. Her stomach clenched. With every moment, she felt she was either being invited to join ranks or lured into a trap where her independence would be sacrificed. And what's in it for you, Victor? A flicker of something surprise, admiration crossed his face. I simply recognize talent, Maria. We both want to succeed. Let us combine forces, capitalize on our strengths. The temptation throbbed within her, the prospect of jetting forward, but Maria's instinct screamed caution. This was more than a partnership, it felt like a merger of ambitions, with Victor aiming to eclipse her own trajectory. She inhaled deeply, recalibrating her thoughts. Why now? What's changed that makes you want to partner with me? She pressed, determined not to yield to charm. Victor's demeanor subtly shifted, the warmth cooling as he analyzed her. You've shown promise, he replied succinctly. But remember, success comes with risk. And I understand that better than anyone. His words stung, but they ignited a spark within her. She wasn't merely a participant in this game, she was a contender. What you need to understand, she stated firmly, is that I'm no longer someone who will be swept along by tides I can't control. For the first time, she felt powerful not in spite of the risks, but because of them. Confronting Victor wasn't about asserting dominance, it was about reclaiming her narrative. Victor's expression morphed into something unreadable, a mix of intrigue and annoyance. Interesting, Maria. You might just have what it takes after all. As they continued to spar with words, Maria felt the sharpness of her resolve solidify. In this exchange, she was discovering pieces of herself that had lain dormant. Attention to detail, strategic questioning, unwavering confidence, these were parts of her that had the power to turn the tides. But even as she held her ground, a nagging fear re-emerged. Was Victor truly someone capable of vulnerability, or was she merely peeling back layers on a seasoned player who could outmaneuver her? The meeting concluded with tentative terms laid out, though more questions loomed between them than answers. As she left the cafe, her mind churned with possibilities and looming confrontations. One certainty baptized in clarity emerged: she needed a plan. The next step demanded profound strategizing. What could she uncover that might give her an edge over Victor? Little did she know, the answer would come from an unexpected source, exposing secrets buried deeper than she had ever anticipated. The impending chaos was not merely a consequence of external forces, it was a reckoning with her own ambitions. As she walked into the bustling street, her phone buzzed yet again. It was a message from Sheikh Ahmed, summoning her for urgent advice on next moves that could shift the entire dynamic. Maria's heart raced. She knew this was just the beginning. Would she seize the moment for dramatic gains or find herself ensnared in a dance she had yet to master? The clock was ticking, and the true test awaited. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a honeyed glow across Maria's path as she made her way to Sheikh Ahmed's office. A sense of urgency pulsated beneath her calm exterior, a reminder that every decision carried weight. The past week had sharpened her instincts, and the meeting felt like a crucial pivot in her burgeoning career. There was power in information, and she needed to navigate this landscape intelligently. As she entered the Sheikh's sleek office, she was struck by the contrasts, the opulence of the decor battling with the weight of expectation she felt. Ahmed stood by the window, silhouetted against the evening light, a figure of authority who understood the stakes involved. Maria, he greeted, turning to face her. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Of course, Sheikh. I appreciate the opportunity to meet, she replied, managing to keep her voice steady despite the rushing thoughts in her mind. Let us get right to it. He motioned for her to sit, his eyes narrowing slightly. I've been analyzing the recent offers you've received. The one from Victor, particularly. There's more at play than you might realize. The moment he uttered Victor's name, a chill coursed through her. She sat back, preparing for the insight she desperately needed. What have you found? Her voice was steady, but a storm of questions brewed beneath her composure. Ahmed leaned forward, his expression serious. Victor has a reputation that precedes him. He is not just a well-connected businessman. He operates with a network that has been known to engage in questionable dealings. I fear if you align with him, you could find yourself entangled in a web that might compromise everything you've worked for. Maria's heart raced. She had always admired Victor's acumen, but now his charm felt like ice. I sensed something off during our meeting, she admitted. His interest seemed less about collaboration and more about securing leverage. An astute observation. Sheikh Ahmed nodded, impressed. You have the intuition of a skilled negotiator, something you must cultivate further. You're still barely scratching the surface of your potential. His compliment rang in her ears, sparking a flicker of belief. But along with it came a wave of responsibility. What should I do? The enormity of the choice settled like lead in her stomach. Consider your strengths. You possess vision, drive, and a unique perspective in this market. He paused, weighing his words. But don't be afraid to leverage your allies. Work with them, not under them. The right partnership should elevate you, not diminish your contributions. His advice struck her with clarity. This was more than just business, it was about asserting her identity within it. I will be strategic, she promised, determination threading through her every word. But I need to know how to navigate these waters. What can you share about Victor's operations? Ahmed hesitated, as if considering his next words carefully. I can give you contacts, insights into his financial dealings, but you will have to do the deeper digging. The key here is to cultivate your power without fostering dependency. That's part of your personal development. His insight reverberated within her. Empowerment was not merely about securing allies, it encompassed knowing when to stand firm on her own. I appreciate your guidance deeply, Sheikh, she replied, her resolve crystallizing. As they exchanged information, Maria felt emboldened by the prospect of uncovering the layers of complexity woven into Victor's ambitions. Not only was she gaining potential strategies, but she was also building a framework for her own growth, navigating loyalty and trust in a realm where many played for keeps. After the meeting concluded, she stepped into the stillness of twilight outside, a sense of clarity flickering to life. Each new piece of information became a building block in her evolving strategy. She would learn, adapt, and use Victor's game against him if necessary. But even as she plotted her course, a new question nestled in the back of her mind: could she really trust Sheikh Ahmed? Was he merely offering a lifeline, or was the dynamic shifting in ways she hadn't yet comprehended? The balance of power seemed to sway at every turn, and she was determined to master its rhythm. Stepping onto the bustling city street, her phone buzzed again, this time with an unexpected notification, a seemingly innocuous detail that could unravel the very foundations of Victor's empire. Her heart raced as the realization set in: this might be the leverage she needed. But a dark undercurrent tugged at her thoughts. If she acted on this information, would she become the threat she wanted to dismantle? As intrigue enveloped her, Maria understood, the next move would require not just strategy, but ethical clarity. With tension crackling in the air, she stared at the phone screen, heart pounding in an escalating rhythm. The unfolding drama was set to escalate, and the choice before her would redefine not only her ambitions but the very moral compass guiding them. Would she seize this opportunity, or would she step back, weighing the cost? The answer was brewing within, and the true test was yet to come. Maria stood at the busy intersection, the city pulsating around her, each horn and voice a reminder of the stakes she was beginning to grasp. The notification on her phone burned in her hand, an urgent whisper of potential power. She could feel the weight of the decision approaching, an infiltration into Victor's carefully constructed world. Apprehension washed over her. This wasn't just about gathering information, it was a crossroads of her integrity and ambition. The lingering words of Sheikh Ahmed echoed in her mind: cultivate your power without fostering dependency. But what power came from underhanded means? Could she justify an attack on Victor's empire if it served her interests? As she strolled towards a quiet cafe to collect her thoughts, she ruminated on her research into Victor's operations. She had spent hours investigating, piecing together a puzzle of shell companies and dubious partners linked to him. There was more there, a multitude of connections between Victor and unsavory figures. The pressure to act clashed with her inherent desire to adhere to a moral code. Inside the cafe, the hum of conversation faded into the background as she focused on her coffee. Each sip brought clarity, but the crux of her dilemma loomed larger with every moment of contemplation. What kind of businesswoman did she want to be? One who seized opportunities without regard for the collateral? Or a leader defined by ethical standards? She pulled her laptop closer, accessing the emails and articles she had flagged about Victor. One point of interest stood out: a recent merger that appeared to consolidate his power but also presented vulnerabilities. What if the information she held could leverage this weakness? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unwilling to type yet. Something nestled in her being urged her to look beyond greed. Each key she could choose to press carried implications that rippled not just for Victor, but for her as well. If she acted solely out of ambition, would she become a mere reflection of everything she despised in Victor? Suddenly, a thought struck her. Instead of deploying the information outright, what if she turned this into an opportunity for dialogue? By exposing Victor's vulnerabilities indirectly, she could position herself as valuable, a tactic she could imagine Ahmed would endorse. Taking a deep breath, she started drafting a message. This wouldn't be a declaration of war, it would be an invitation for conversation, leveraging her knowledge without direct confrontation. "I know things could be better for us," she typed, the words flowing as strategy solidified. Minutes passed, her confidence building. Before long, her fingers paused again. As she reviewed her draft, alarm bells chimed in her mind. What if Victor caught wind of her intentions? What if he retaliated? The consequences spun around her, each scenario causing her focus to fracture. Yet the throat-tightening pressure hinted at an answer she had been avoiding. She needed to take control, seize the narrative before Victor's reach could snuff out her ambitions. Composing herself, she finished her message, rationalizing that if executed right, this could turn the table not just for herself, but to reshape her path ahead. With the email sent, Maria shifted her gaze to the street outside, her heart pounding with newfound determination. The involvement of Sheikh Ahmed weighed upon her, his insights had forged her into a strategist, but a whisper of doubt lingered. Was he grooming her for something darker? As she replayed her decision in her mind, the connection to Sheikh chiseling away at her resolve, she sensed a crack emerging in their dynamic. Could she truly count on Ahmed as an ally? But understanding Victor's potential fallout was more pressing now. Before she could spiral further, a figure appeared in her peripheral vision, unnervingly familiar. Victor himself was crossing the street, scanning the area with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. The realization struck her it was time to face the dragon, and she had already waged a silent war. With each breath, she embraced a stark resolve: the next encounters would not just be tactical, they would define who she truly was meant to be in this unforgiving arena. Would she step forward and confront Victor, armed by the choices she made, or would she retreat in fear of what lay ahead? The moment of truth felt imminent, the air thick with tension and untapped potential. The game was shifting, and the scope of her journey might hinge on her next decisive move. Days turned into weeks, and Maria was no longer just navigating her world, she was reshaping it. Each decision, each interaction, became a personal milestone that marked her growth. As she confronted Victor, she felt the anxiety that had once paralyzed her melt into a more profound resolve. The meeting with Victor started at a small, exclusive rooftop lounge. The city skyline shimmered beyond them like a treasure trove of possibilities, a perfect metaphor for her own ascendance. Maria held herself with newfound poise, remembering what Sheikh Ahmed had taught her about confidence as currency. As she stepped into the sleek, dimly lit space, the ambience buzzed with possibility, the air ripe with the success she was now beginning to claim. "Maria, good to see you," Victor said, his tone smooth yet laced with intrigue. "I was wondering when you'd be ready for our conversation." His eyes darted over her, assessing, probing for weaknesses, perhaps. "I'm ready," Maria replied, her voice steady. No longer a simple waitress, she embodied a woman willing to carve her fate in the unforgiving landscape of high stakes and risk. They moved to the corner table, where Victor leaned forward. "I've been thinking about your proposal," he said, feigning warmth. "Collaboration could yield benefits. But trust is crucial." His demeanor held no pretense, and Maria noted every nuance, every shift in his expression. As they discussed opportunities, Maria directed the conversation towards the recent merger Victor had orchestrated. "I researched the implications," she said deliberately, feeling a surge of confidence. "Your plan to integrate those companies isn't foolproof. There are many who will fight back." "I have it under control," Victor remarked, a shadow crossing his expression. Yet Maria couldn't miss the flicker of uncertainty hidden behind his bravado. "Your weaknesses could easily be exploited. Wouldn't it be wiser to have eyes on all fronts?" She countered, her words deliberate, imbued with strategic insight rooted in her growing expertise. Victor's gaze sharpened, a hint of respect mingling with disdain. "Bold approach," he replied, but she could tell he was taken aback. That was precisely the point she wanted to solidify her place, to prove that she was an equal in this high-stake arena. Maria pressed on, bringing the conversation to her vision, one that included room for collaboration but also challenged Victor to adapt. "If we pursue a strategy that acknowledges mutual vulnerabilities, we could strengthen each other's positions. For the first time, Victor leaned back, considering her words rather than dismissing them outright. I didn't expect this level of insight from you, Maria. You've evolved since our last meeting. Perhaps it was recognition, perhaps a test. Either way, Maria seized the moment. The threads of doubt that once entangled her were fraying, unraveling into a newfound clarity. This isn't just about you or me. We have to work to outsmart opponents in this game, she indicated, her voice unwavering. Let us redefine the rules and make it a partnership based on strength, something that offers a competitive edge. And what do you propose in return? He asked, his curiosity piqued, weaving intrigue into their dance of words. Maria's heart raced. This was her chance not just for negotiation, but for affirmation. A seat at the table, respect, and shared control. A partnership that doesn't compromise integrity while ensuring we both maintain leverage. Victor chuckled, though the laughter echoed a sense of challenge. You're ambitious, Maria. But ambition in this world comes with stakes. Are you prepared to weather the storm? I am not afraid of storms, Victor, she replied resolutely, her voice crisp. I've battled my own for too long. I am here to shape my destiny, not simply survive in this environment. In that moment, Maria felt the storm within her calm. It was no longer about proving herself, it was about establishing her position. With more clarity than she had ever possessed, she understood that her power lay in her ability to articulate her vision. The conversation unfolded beyond camaraderie, each exchange like a well-played chess piece moving on the board. Maria walked the fine line between vulnerability and strength, keeping the tension alive without compromising her core. When they parted, a new dynamic anchored their alliance, burgeoning respect born of strategic insight rather than submission. It wasn't the collaboration Maria initially envisioned, but it was a step toward reclaiming her narrative in this mercurial game of power. Later, as she stepped onto the streets glimmering with potential, she felt the weight of accomplishment rest upon her shoulders. Maria had transformed. What began as a shy waitress had morphed into a tenacious player with a vision for her future. Her meeting with Ahmed that followed became a testament to her development. In his office, the gravity of her journey blossomed between them. You've become a force, he acknowledged, pride illuminating his eyes. What you've achieved with Victor is not just remarkable, it's a declaration of your worth in this world. Thank you, Sheikh, Maria replied, her voice steady with newfound grace. I realize now that I don't need to relinquish my integrity to rise in this landscape. Power lies not merely in alliances but in strategic strength, and I'm ready to own it. A smile creased Ahmed's face, a reflection of understanding earned through experience. Her journey was no longer just about saving Sheikh Ahmed from deception, it became a quest for self-affirmation. As she stepped into the world outside, Maria embraced the clarity of her identity. She was on the brink of establishing her own realm, built not merely on ambition but also on the strength of her convictions. The road ahead remained uncertain, but there was palpable excitement igniting her spirit. Every obstacle would nurture her growth, for she had learned the most important lesson of all: true power comes from within. This was Maria's moment to shine. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because every click matters. Comment your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering journey. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support is the lifeblood of stories like Maria's.